Hey guys, how we doing and how we feeling today? I'm your host Emilio Fernandez, and once again, welcome back to the Pop and Bop podcast. Now, on this episode, we're gonna talk about and review Selena Gomez's fourth studio album, I Said I Love You First, which is actually a joint album, a collaborative album with her now fiance, producer Benny Blanco, and this is actually his second studio album. Now, Selena Gomez needs no introduction whatsoever. I mean, a lot of us grew up with her, myself included, during the Disney days. So she was a Disney icon, and now she's an icon in general. And Benny Blanco, as I said, he's a producer, in case you didn't know, a very well-known producer. He's responsible for some of the biggest pop hits ever, like Justin Bieber's Love Yourself, Katy Perry's Teenage Dream and California Girls, and Kesha's TikTok. Now, this album is mainly a blend of one genre and two subgenres, which are pop, alternative pop, and bedroom pop. Okay, so prior to the album release, we had two singles, which were Call Me When You Break Up with Gracie Abrams and Sunset Boulevard. And then with the album release, we had the third single, which was Younger and Hotter Than Me, and the fourth single, Ojos Tristes with the Marias. Now, this album is 14 tracks long and it's 34 minutes long, so it's on the shorter side of a listening session, I would say, because normally with 14 tracks you would assume that it's like at least 40 minutes, but it's shorter than that. Now, before we start, I'm just gonna preface all of this by saying that this is a standard edition of the album, because shortly after the release of the album, Selena added one new-ish track, because it was, I believe it was the acoustic version of Call Me When You Break Up, the lead single, and a previously unreleased fan favorite track, Stained. But this was not actually the deluxe. We had a proper deluxe edition later on, which was I Said I Love You First, and You Said It Back, something like that. So we're not gonna review any of those additional tracks. We're just gonna focus on the original 14. Okay. So with that being said, let's start. So we have the first track, which is I Said I Love You First, the title track and opening track. And this is just a brief spoken intro, but it's actually quite special because Selena opens the album by thanking all the people who have been a part of her journey so far in her career. One would have thought that this title track would be a full-length love song, especially judging by the title, but the kind of love that is depicted here is a heartfelt way to start us off. Now, we move on to the first proper track on the album, which is Younger and Hotter Than Me, the first of my standout tracks on the album. So the intro transitions seamlessly into this proper first track. This is the third single, as I already said. We start things out by slowly with a nice piano ballad. And in this song, Selena feels frustration over a guy who just doesn't see her the way she sees him. Selena finds herself begging for his attention, making a fool of herself in the process, which leads her to feeling disappointed, thinking that he would be different. She wishes she never even loved him. Meanwhile, his girlfriends only seem to be getting younger and hotter than her, at least in Selena's eyes. So this is a pretty interesting way to actually start us off, speaking of proper tracks, full-length tracks, because it's called Younger and Hotter Than Me, and a lot of people can relate to this because as we get older and if you find yourself in a relationship, it it can happen that your partner, like starts to maybe prefer uh, younger and hotter people than you, so you feel bad. Obviously, you feel pressured because of society. As I'm saying, you feel like you're competing with other people for your partner's attention or for your partner to still love you. So it's tough. Now, track number 3, Call Me When You Break Up with Gracie Abrams. So this is the lead single, as I already said. This is easily the most radio-friendly track on the album. Gracie was a nice addition to this track. Her vocals are pretty welcome here, and in this song, Selena and Gracie talk about being there for a friend after they've gone through a breakup, trying to healthily fill that void while they heal. So this is a pretty straightforward song because it's called Call Me When You Break Up, and yeah, basically that. They're talking about being there, as I'm saying, being there for a friend when they break up with their lover, their partner. So it's like, hey, call me when you break up. I'll be there for you. You don't have to go through this alone. And yeah. Now, track number 4, Ojos Tristes with the Marias. Another one of my standout tracks. So actually, I wasn't familiar with the Marias before this track, but I actually liked what they did here, what they brought to the table. And coincidentally, I believe that it happened that after this album dropped and this song kind of took off, it became one of them. I believe it became one. It's not one of the most, but the most streamed track on the album. I'm almost sure of that. So it gained a lot of traction, and I believe that it was around this time that the Marias took off. After this, I saw them in more festivals, like performing at more festivals and getting more gigs and such. So yeah, good for them. So this is the 4th single, and the production is fascinating here as it brilliantly conveys the title's theme of sadness. The Maria's Spanish vocal delivery only helps in sending the track's message home. And in this song, Selena and the Marias talk about a guy who, just by looking at him, clearly reflects a deep sadness because of his partner having to say goodbye. So a pretty straightforward song as with the previous one. It's called Ojos Tristes, and yeah, like basically when you don't wanna, like you're sad that you have to say goodbye to your loved one, your significant other. So yeah. Now, track number 5, Don't Wanna Cry, another one of my standouts. If the listener didn't read the title beforehand, they would think that this track's lyrical content is joyous due to the upbeat production, but it's actually quite the opposite. And in this song, Selena talks about being in a toxic relationship as she finds herself in a vicious cycle, coming back to this guy time and time again, even though each time she swears she won't forgive him ever again. With that said, however, she warns him that one day she won't be around anymore, having found someone that actually treats her well. So, yeah, it's called Don't Wanna Cry. And I mean, which artist hasn't written a song about toxic relationships before? I mean, in the previous episode we reviewed Taylor Gray's latest album, So Close to What, and she has a song on there called Revolving Door, and we talked about in that episode that it's a pretty similar story to this song. That's why I bring that example to the forefront, because yeah, another toxic relationship story, and I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I would say. So we move on to track number 6, Sunset Boulevard, another one of my standouts. This is the second single. This track could be considered an acquired taste. At least that's what happened when I listened to it the first time. I didn't really get it. It's one of those songs that maybe you don't get it at first, but the more you listen to it, the more you appreciate it, the more you find new things to love or like about that song. Out of the 4 singles, this track is arguably the strongest. And Selena stated that Sunset Boulevard is where she and Benny had their first date. So this is a nice way of like making the song feel more special, because it has special meaning for these 2 artists. So now, track number 7, Cowboy, another one of my standouts. One of the strongest tracks on the album, without a doubt. When Selena says underwater, it actually sounds like she's singing in this fashion, which is a nice attention to detail. I love when artists do these kinds of things. The production matches the track's sultry lyrics quite nicely, and this actually, it just occurred to me right now, this track reminds me of, like, what I'm saying about the sultry feel and sound of this song, it reminds me a lot of Selena's Good For You 2015 track from her album of that same year, which was her second album, Revival. And that song is also pretty sultry. Like, I remember that song kickstarted her whole like post Hollywood Records / Disney era. So that album was when she first like did whatever she wanted with her music, meaning that she was no longer restricted in the sense that she could put out explicit music if she wanted to. So she came out swinging with that track. Anyways, so rapper Glorilla does the spoken outro, which I actually didn't know until I researched it. And yeah, I mean, I was familiar with Glorilla, but I didn't recognize her voice immediately. Okay, so moving on to track number 8, Blue as Flame, another one of my standouts. One of the strongest tracks on the album. The production here is at its highest level of quality among the rest of the album, as this song is even club friendly. Charlie XCX co-wrote this track. Her previous collaboration with Selena and Benny was back in 2015 with Selena's Same Old Love, also from that Revival album. And this song had the potential to be pushed as a single. With the right push and music video, this could have easily been a hit for Selena and Benny. And I am speaking in the past tense because I'm pretty sure this album has done its thing by now. I mean, it came out on March, and we're in August, so some time has passed now. And yeah, I think Selena and Benny have moved on from this album, but if they were to release one more, like 1/5 final single, this track is undoubtedly the best choice for that. Now, track number 9, How Does It Feel to Be Forgotten, another one of my standouts. Things slow down a notch on this track, an acoustic guitar ballad, and the instrumentation and Selena's vocal delivery really match this track's theme. And in this song, Selena talks about where she stands now, having a new love in her life, and asking her ex what it feels like now that she has left him in the past where he rightfully belongs. This could be about Benny and Justin Bieber, her fiance and ex, respectively. Now, moving on to track number 10, Do You Wanna Be Perfect? The album could have done without this brief interlude, I have to say. It feels out of place with the overall theme of the album and can come across as pretty cringy. So, yeah, I mean, we were doing really good up until this point, and this is where the album, like, really, I felt like it really hit a pit stop and it lost its momentum, its theme. If you took this out of the album, I would be more favorable towards it, as you're gonna see in a bit. But anyways, moving on to track number 11, You Said You Were Sorry, another one of my standouts. In this song, Selena seems to continue the story from the previous track, as she states that she doesn't think about her ex and is happy without him. More now than ever, she then goes on to describe a dream she once had in which she gets some form of closure with someone, presumably her ex Justin, and as they both forgave each other. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I don't really see anything I can add to that because, yeah, I mean, it's called You Said You Were Sorry, and still talking about Justin Bieber, presumably. So, yeah. Now, track number 12, I Can't Get Enough, with J Balvin and Tiny. This track was released back in 2019. Prior to this collaboration, Benny co-produced 2 tracks on Selena's second studio album, Revival, which were Killin' With Kindness and Same Old Love, which served as singles. Benny and Tiny's production here is solid, and J Balvin's inclusion makes for another well-crafted Latin collaboration on this album. Selena and Benny were smart to include this track on the album, I have to say, given its massive number of streams. I mean, it's over 300 million streams on Spotify, so yeah, they had to include it. And one would think that it's not the right fit with this album, but given the album's overarching theme of love, it does have a place here. So it was a smart decision to make on their behalf. And in this song, Selena and J Balvin talk about a romantic dynamic where one of the pair can't get enough of the other's love, and the other person is all for matching that level of affection. So, another self-explanatory song. I mean, it's called Can't Get Enough, I Can't Get Enough. And yeah, you basically, when you can't get enough of your lover, so you're crazy about them, you would do anything for them. You're like in that phase of the relationship, like in the honeymoon phase, pretty much. Now, track number 13, Don't Take It Personally. In this song, Selena seemingly talks about another girl who likes Benny, and now resents Selena for taking Benny away from her. Selena pleads with her to not take this whole thing personally, nor waste any energy on it, as there's nothing to be done, and tells her that she'll find someone perfect for her. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people can relate to this song, I'm sure of it, because it can happen that you're really happy with someone in a relationship, and there's someone that from your partner's past that is still after them, like they still like your partner, and now that they're taken and you were the one who took them from them, they resent you for it. So it's just a matter of fact of how you handle the situation. Like if you're mature about it, like Selena is in this case, that she's telling this girl like, hey, don't take this personally. We can handle this like adults. Like, yes, I know that you still like my boyfriend, but or well, fiance by now, but I mean, what am I gonna do about it? And what are you gonna do about it? You can't do anything. I can't do anything. I'm not gonna leave him for you. I'm just because I feel sorry for you. So yeah, like just be certain that everything happens for a reason. Personally, I'm a firm believer. I 100% believe that everything happens for a reason. So in this case, you just have to tell that person like, hey, don't worry. There's plenty of fish in the sea, and there's gonna be someone for you, I'm sure of it. Someone ideal for you. Maybe not perfect, because perfect, there's no such thing as that, but someone ideal for you. Okay, and that brings us to the final track on this album, Scared of Loving You. This was the track that kickstarted the album rollout, and actually when Selena and Benny made the announcement and they released this song and I heard it for the first time, I thought that it was the lead single, but I heard it and I was like, okay, it's not a bad song by any means, but it's not lead single worthy. Like, it's not even single worthy. So fortunately, it just resulted in being a buzzer single. And the actual lead single was Call Me When You Break Up with Gracie Abrams. So I'm glad that they made this decision. It was better for the rollout overall. But actually, the more I've heard this song, the more I have appreciated. It's not one of my standout tracks, as you have seen, but it is a good song. And it's the ideal one to close out this album. I believe it brings everything full circle. And this track was co-produced and co-written by Phineas. In case you don't know, Phineas is Billie Eilish's brother and recurrent producer. And in this song, Selena talks about how she's not scared of loving Benny, nor of him finding someone who loves him more than she does, but rather of losing him. And yeah, maybe this is the most relatable song on the album, because who isn't scared of losing someone, like of losing, in this case, their partner, their lover, their significant other? We all go through this. So yeah, I mean, it's something that's pretty tough, obviously. So yeah, love and all of its trials and tribulations. What can I say? Okay, so that was the album. Overall, this is an impressive pop album. The production is highly consistent. Benny really did his thing here. But don't get it twisted. I initially, like when I was listening to the singles as they were coming out, I was like, okay, like I'm not really loving, like not really feeling these singles. Like Benny is really that producer, like that kind of producer that can give you like smash hits, as I said at the beginning. So what is going on here? Like, what is not clicking? But when the whole album was released and I listened to it, I was like, okay, like he did his thing here yet again. He proved me wrong, and I'm glad that I was proven wrong. So yeah, and the more I've listened to this album in its entirety, the more I find it as solid as it is. So yeah, the production is highly consistent, and this is a step up from Selena's previous album, Rare. Now, when comparing this album to the rest of Selena's discography, do I consider this to be her best album yet? No. I've seen some people say that they believe that this album is her best album, but I still think that Revival, her second studio album, the one I've talked about in this episode, is Selena's best album yet. Because going briefly through her discography, we have obviously, well, in case you didn't know, but a lot of us should know this, she started in a band called Selena Gomez and the Scene, and she released, I believe it was 3 albums with them, and she gave us hits with that band, like Naturally, Round and Round, A Year Without Rain, and such. Love You Like a Love Song. And then she went solo, and that was the best decision she could have ever made. And she started with her first, her debut solo studio album, which was Stars Dance. But Selena, even though she has 4 solo albums under her belt, she still calls this album, well, before it had a name, she called it SG3. But I was like, well, it's actually technically her 4th album, but I believe that she omits Stars Dance from her solo run because Stars Dance, as I said, was, well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Stars Dance was her last album with Hollywood Records, Disney's record label. So since she couldn't express herself 100% as she wanted to under Hollywood Records, because it's from Disney, she considers Revival her first album because that's when she signed with, I believe she's with Interscope Records and her current label. And so with that label, she can do whatever she wants in terms of music. So I believe that that's why she considers this album her 3rd solo studio album and not her 4th. But anyways, for the sake of this review, I considered this her 4th album. Anyways, and then we had her 3rd album, Rare, back in 2020. That gave us the hits, the number 1 hits, Lose You to Love Me, really good song. And that brings us to her 4th album, this album that we just reviewed, I Said I Love You First. Now, what score do I give I Said I Love You First? I give this album a strong 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so that was my review for I Said I Love You First by Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. Before I go, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Please give us 5-star reviews on your podcast streaming platform of choice, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're also on iHeartRadio and Google Podcasts, so plenty of choices for you to choose. And I just know that you can do this on Spotify. I'm not sure if you can do this on the rest of the streaming services, but leave your comments on Spotify. We want to see what you think about the episodes. Give us your feedback so we can improve, all that jazz. And be sure to follow us on all social media. We're at Pop and Bop on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Okay, so this has been Pop and Bop. I'm Emilio Fernandez, your host. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. See you.